For centuries, alchemists have wrestled with the puzzle of how to turn lead into gold. Alchemy is all about transformation, you see. But what if that transformation was about you? What about finding your inner gold? That is the true personal alchemy. And this week we dive into the tools for transformation.
Welcome to a new paradigm, a new way of being, free from shame, self-limitation, or cultural programming. Welcome to a new you, a new world, full of endless possibilities. Welcome to your Tantric Awakening.
Welcome to the Tantric Awakening podcast. I'm Andre.
And I'm Kendall.
And interestingly enough, or just earlier this week, the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland announced that they succeeded in turning some lead atoms into gold. Physics has finally caught up to alchemy. Yeah, I wonder what that'll do to the market prices. Thankfully, it's confined to just one experiment so far. But yes, this concept of purifying something, right? Starting with a base metal and then purifying it, refining it, refining it, refining it until it shines like gold. Do you remember what gold is on the periodic table? Do you remember high school chemistry?
Honestly, I don't. Isn't it like Na? Or
No, that's actually salt, but a lot of people would assume it's something like G or GO, right? And it's not, it's actually AU. And we never question it. They just told us AU stands for gold. It comes from the Latin word for gold, which is aureum. Literally shines like your aura, aureum, or the mineral that enhances your aura.
Love that.
The Egyptians had a fascination for gold. The Incas had a fascination for gold, but not the way we do in a monetary value. They knew it amplified their auras. That's why it was precious. They couldn't figure out why we wanted to collect the stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, just leave it out for everybody to be around and have their auras lifted. You know, what's this ownership stuff? But this metaphor, and I think it's much more than a metaphor, because in alchemy they call it the great work. And it's not about working with the base metals. It's about working with yourself, refining yourself, digging out that inner gold, helping it shine.
Absolutely.
And that's what we would love to dive in with you guys for this week. The tools for transformation, the tools that worked for us. We'll share a little bit about our journey. This is the 11th episode. It's time you got to know your hosts a little bit. And then, we can suggest how some of those tools may be useful for some of the things you might be facing. The one premise that I would like to start approaching this from, when we talk about transformation, personal transformation, it's very easy to think that something might be wrong with you that needs to be fixed. What I want to propose, what needs the transformation, is your mindset. Maybe what you thought were your flaws, the blemishes on your history, the tough things you worked through, were actually the gifts, the very treasures. Okay? So it's not transform as in you need fixing, it's transforming the mindset and realizing the perfection that you really are. And I guess as in our discussion of tools, I mean, one of the best ways I can think of to start learning about yourself would be astrology, right? And human design, things that you really have been diving deep into. So maybe we can begin our conversation there. Like, how is it that these tools can reveal something about yourself, and how has it influenced you in your journey?
Yeah. It's influenced me greatly because it's helped me know myself and really enter into this place of self-actualization and knowing my own agency as a woman, as a soul here. So these tools have really helped me acknowledge my cosmic divinity. It's helped me understand that I'm more than just on this earth plane. I'm actually from the stars, of the stars, that there's divine intention for why I came here. And these deeper questions that I think so many of us have in our life. And I think for even myself, I remember when I was in college, I was still asking myself of like, what should I major in? What do I want to do with my life? And so many people, so many of us humans get to those points in our life throughout our life. And so for me, astrology and human design came at a perfect time when I was really wanting to know the more. And I wanted to understand my inner makeup, why I operated the way I did. And as someone that grew up kind of avoiding these aspects of myself, because astrology, these parts of myself, I remember feeling in my former religion that they were like off limits. And so they have been honestly great revealers. And it's been an beautiful return home, a remembrance, honestly, because there's the way that astrology is, it dances and it works really well with human design, because human design specifically speaks into the energy body on the channels of energy that are working at the same time with the planets. So it's really helpful for anyone wanting to know their strengths, know how they operate. And yeah, it's really helped me on my self-parenting journey, reparenting journey.
And I can see that Christianity steers away from it because to them it's like voodoo, it's like witchcraft, right? It's unnatural. Here again, it's very natural. Science more and more backs up what the mystics have always taught us, because we actually are made up of star stuff. The only element naturally present in the universe is hydrogen, one on the periodic table. It is in the heat of the star that two hydrogen atoms fuse together, form helium, number 2. And things keep fusing and keep forming all the elements. All of the elements on this planet, all of the elements that make up our bones and muscles, originated from the fusion of the star. Yeah, so we literally come from the stars. You know, and human design, which grew out of astrology, it's really interesting because it was really designed to bring astrology like into the boardroom. A lot of business type people really think astrology is kind of woo, you know? So this was a way to take those wisdoms but present them in a more quantifiable, more scientific form. And it really was about exactly what we're speaking into, building teams. Because each of us has connections that are solid and connections that are open, and other people might have connections in other areas. So it's about forming teams where each person's strengths make up for another person's weaknesses, and the team fits together like a cohesive puzzle. And here again, it's amplifying your unique strengths and traits. You're not trying to change yourself. The transformation is in mindset. You learn about yourself so you can really learn where your strengths, where your perfections lie. And it's usually where your passions are. If you're pulled towards something, it's pulling you.
Yeah, it's very true what you're saying. I resonate with this. And the thing about what's coming up for me and when you're sharing is this whole dance of leadership. And when you know yourself, you're able to then, I believe, be a better leader, right? And I truly believe the esoteric teachings of human design and astrology, and even like tarot, for example, are really activating the part of the brain that is not so linear, right? And even in my experiences, for example, going to business school, a lot of it didn't include such magical understandings, I guess, of esoteric wisdom. I mean, there was the Myers-Briggs. There was, I think later on after college, I learned about the Enneagram. But astrology and human design are just at a whole nother level. I mean, the way I see it, and you talk about like teamwork, right? It is, for me, these tools have helped me understand, what does it mean to have empathy in a deeper way? What does it mean to have compassion? What does it mean to look at someone's soul? I mean, sincerely, when I'm looking at somebody's chart, and I've looked at many, when I look at an astrology chart, I get to see behind the veil. When I look at someone's human design, I'm looking behind the veil. Like this is like at the root, the core of the onion. And I love that I geek out on this, and I love it because it reminds me the core need of all of us just yearning to be seen. And that's what I love. And not only continuing to invest in this for myself as a tool, but also because I love seeing our clients light up in knowing thyself and being prompted to understand themselves and like slow down and become clear about who they really are. And
you know what I really,
magical.
It is. It's truly magical. You know what I really love witnessing? Is when that internal transformation takes place and you start seeing the external manifestation of that transformation, like seeing that transformation before your eyes when people start doing things they didn't know they were capable of doing.
And you're really good in guiding people and calling them out and helping them transform. Well, you see through even people's limitations. I've witnessed that. You've helped me greatly.
Well, we do it as a team, really. Yeah. Here again, teams. Each of us has unique strengths. We really complement each other. We don't have to be copies or clones of each other, but we complement each other. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And that's what a solid team, yeah.
I mean, just for even the power of two, I wanted to mention as well, what I love about our union and just what I really believe in the power of like leadership and what the ethos of what we are developing and as a model and hopefully inspiring people is like in partnership. Like for me, and I didn't know I would do this in just like divine union, which is almost have this like hopefully healthy obsession, but just this longing to understand you and understand how you operate. Because I feel when I get to know parts of people, it's also helping me understand myself because of unity consciousness, because we're all
divine
connected, you know, in that way. And so when I'm able to look at, for example, where Mercury's is in your human design and where mine is, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it's powerful. Just really powerful. Yeah. I feel like you and I very much take intimacy coaching to like the next level. Like we go beyond just like, let's talk about things. No, we like reveal.
Well, you hit on it because we're so passionate about learning about ourselves. It's that natural curiosity, that passion for going deeper that's always there. You know, and, you know, for those of you that are new to the podcast and new to Tantric Awakening, we are a 501c3 nonprofit for learning about the ancient traditions and what they taught us about the wisdoms of the universe, as well as taking the newest of modern science and just figuring out how this works and then passing this knowledge on to as many as possible. You know, this is knowledge that's been with us since the dawn of time, passed down through every tradition. Right. And we're all about transforming the world. Yes, but transforming the world through personal transformations. You see, the best way to transform the world is to transform yourself because that's how it begins. That's how the chain reaction starts, right? When you create a leader, you're creating somebody who's going to empower others. and those people are going to empower others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how the wave of change really begins. It begins with you.
Yeah.
So it's global transformation through assisting personal transformation. That's what Tantric Awakening really is.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful, and even just thinking of what a leader means, like what does it mean to lead? It's knowing yourself, because, and not just knowing yourself, but the reality of this plane is we're going outside, we're exploring, we're gathering information essentially, and it's what we do with that information that is key. And that's where I feel the pearls of wisdom, especially as leaders ourselves. Like, I have found so much wisdom from discovering what I don't want to have in my life, or discovering something that's not at the vibration or at the level that I want to be at, you know? So it's essentially being the alchemist. It's being able to bear witness to being our own hero, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, that's what it ultimately comes down to. The dictionary definition of leader is to go first. Doesn't mean you're better than someone, doesn't mean you're above someone. This is the part a lot of world leaders today don't understand. They think it's about having power over others, flexing your muscle. No, it's always about yourself. You work on yourself, you become the best you can be. You lead by going first and setting an example for others to follow. That's what leading by example means. Stop worrying about telling others what to do. That's not what a leader does. A leader goes first.
Yeah. I mean, that requires so much. That requires a level of
Trust in the universe, in yourself.
Not even just trust in, not even just trust in the universe, but yourself and who you are. Because when you know yourself, when you know what you stand for, when you know your strengths and even your weaknesses, that's powerful. And when you are not like letting them lead you, but you are embodied through that. And it's because of these experiences that you've gone through. It's because of what, you know, some might quote as failures that you've actually identified as diamonds that have been created from pressure filled moments. Like, it's about, like, you know, No Man's Land, when Wonder Woman was crossing No Man's Land in the movie. It's like she knew what she represented. She knew the risk. She'd been preparing for such moment for a long, long time. And because of her courage and her resilience to step out when other people were afraid to, she was able to lead a movement and empower the men and the people on the front lines. So yeah, it's
Well, let's dig into that a little bit, because this really speaks into your life journey to this point so far. Because, you know, we've talked about it in prior episodes, you know, how you had to find the courage to leave the church. How speaking out about abuses you saw in the church led to you getting ostracized from your family. But you speaking about the oppression of sexuality, you know, you just being you really led you to being ostracized. But that whole journey of like starting within the church, because so much of what they teach is to look outside yourself, right? The Father God, the father of the family, it's always looking to some usually male above you, power over you, authority figure. And your journey really was coming from that to figuring out that the divine is not somewhere outside of you, that the divine spark, right? That spark of the star really is within you. And the Egyptians, by the way, they believed stars were conscious. They worshiped them like gods. They spoke to them like entities. They channeled them in their meditations. But that divine spark really, that they teach you to seek outside yourself, has really been within you that whole time. That is the hero's journey. That is, you know, that is literally the journey. And it feels like your personal life, your experience, you really lived it. You literally lived it.
Yeah. I really respect the journey I've gone on. I mean, it's not been easy. There's been moments of great hardship where I didn't even want to live anymore, and it's been a there's been many challenges. There's been moments of doubt, fear, anger. I mean, I've personally experienced the spectrum of emotions and really have at 32 up until this point have seen my humanity and have had no other choice but to face it. And I'm honestly grateful because in the facing of oneself is where true authenticity is birthed. And I'm grateful that personally I'm not like 40 years older than I am right now, just now discovering myself. I'm grateful that this initiation into these more mystical, esoteric teachings and arts have really helped me see myself and essentially launching me into the next phase of my life. And yeah, I'm grateful for everything I've gone through, and it's powerful. It's powerful. I chose this initiation, right? Multiple of them.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it interesting how you can feel like you're stumbling along blindly and being divinely led at the same time, right? What was the phrase you came up with shortly before we went on? You said dancing your way through chaos. You put it really beautifully.
Sure. I mean, it's bringing order to chaos, essentially. And it's not even that per se. It's more of like allowing yourself to let go of control and just surrendering to what is happening in the moment. And I can look back on like even my personal Saturn return, which happened in 2022, and the moments that led up to it, and then follow the months and even years following suit. It was for a reason. It was cosmically orchestrated. And I'm very, very grateful. It's revealed so much, not only about life itself, what life is all about, but it's helped me understand humanity. It's helped me understand relationships that I grew up with, closest to me, and really understanding people's shadows, and even learning to, accept people's mistakes, like really mistakes that, people had to make these decisions in order to protect themselves. So it's like I've seen and felt it all as it relates to, going through these transitions of life. But I'm here and I'm more wise because of all these portals.
Well, that's why I like the metaphor for dance, because bringing order to chaos is what we try to do. And I think the more we try to enforce that, the more we almost experience a little bit of friction and struggle, because there is always flow in the universe. There's always movement. There's always a little hint of the unpredictable, because the universe is always growing and evolving. And that's just it. It's learning to flow with it. It's learning to dance with it. That is really kind of like the art.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I would say there's a dance of ebb and flow. Like there's a beauty to having structure and boundaries, especially developing your own divine masculine energy for sure. And there's also a place to unravel, absolutely. And it's also being attuned to what's happening, what's going on in your world. Because I personally am looking at the last few years, I can really look at many moments where I definitely felt the unraveling. I definitely felt like the structure was being shifted quite rapidly, and in quote, it could look like, oh my gosh, so my world's falling apart. But really it's
restructuring.
It's falling apart to restructure and rebuild. It's like the death rebirth cycle, which for me, Pluto, the planet of rebirth and transformation, is connected right next to dancing with the moon in Scorpio. So a big part of my life is about transformation and surrendering to that. So it's honestly, I've learned because of my conscious awareness with astrology, that's going to be a life theme for me. So it's in my best interest to just surrender to the natural flow of change, which in my Capricornness can feel like I'm stubborn a little bit of like, oh, I want to keep the status quo. But I am absolutely more than ever just an advocate of evolution and growth. And I think that's definitely because of my connection with Mother Earth. Everything's in motion. Everything is constantly moving. And because of that, it's necessary that we are evolving as humans, that we are remembering why we've come here, because our time is limited.
Well, as your evolution, as you learned to not look outside yourself, but to find that within, like, what, obviously astrology, we've spoken about that. Like, what are the tools? What proved the most useful to you in your evolution that's now, it was so useful in your own transformation that now it's a part of your toolbox when you work with others seeking to transform? Because really, you guys, the best tools we can offer are the ones that we've used in our own transformations. Like we don't just believe they work, we know they work because we've used them too. So what stands out to you as some of the things that have been useful to you in your journey?
First and foremost, for me as a woman and just stepping into more of like divine feminine leadership, is menstrual cycle awareness. And I really truly believe this is a core pillar to any woman in any business, honestly, that has women in it.
Right.
And some of my mentors around this in the Red School, the Red Power, or what is it called? The book called? And Menstruality. I can't think of it right now. It's called Wild Power. Excuse me. It's a book about menstruation and the power of connecting to the cycles. Highly recommend it. But this is very essential for me as a woman. It's a core pillar to, for me, any woman that comes into my world, you are going to be invited into how to honor your cycle, and not only honor your cycle, but allow it to serve you energetically as you create, as you connect to your spirituality. It is an absolutely beautifully divine embodied structure and support system to help you in whatever you're doing. So that is honestly the first and foremost tool I would encourage anyone, especially if you're a man listening and you're in a relationship with a woman, highly recommend it. If you're in a business leader, like just being aware that women have cycles and that our energy shifts, especially when you go into inner winter. Like, my dream is to see more businesses align with menstrual cycle wisdom, because then you're supporting the divine feminine balancing.
Well, I know our own productivity and our own happiness as far as work-life balance has certainly improved dramatically when we started aligning ourselves with yours. Absolutely. This is why, for example, you'll notice we put out 3 episodes per month instead of 4, because we do take 1 week off. That's our week. We're always projecting. This is our week for going within, absolutely. Because, if we're going to help people reach higher and higher and higher, we have to show up higher and higher and higher as well. So it's not really even a week off. It's a week of working on yourself differently.
Well,
right?
In menstrual cycle awareness, there's 2 seasons. There's inner negativa and inner positiva. It's like their energies of extrovertedness and introvertedness. So it's just when you know where you're at. Again, consciousness. When you are aware of yourself, you then can make decisions on behalf of yourself, right? Because here's the thing that I've learned, and I catch myself all the time, but we are the creators of our own reality, and we're not here to be victims. Victimization is self-induced, I believe. But when you are a creator of your reality, you are able to take action with the awareness that you have, right? Of, okay, if I'm, for example, right now I'm in inner spring. I just transitioned out of my personal inner winter. menstruation. So I am aligning myself and my actions and my attitude towards inner spring task so that as a woman, as a business owner, as a lover, I am more attuned to how to be more fully attentive to my inner body, my energy body. And therefore it helps me as well creatively and spiritually.
That's realizing that you are the divine you've been seeking all along.
Mm-hmm.
And with that realization comes a lot of possibility and also, as you hinted at, the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Anything is possible when you realize you have a hand in creating your own reality. But also, it becomes harder to play victim. It becomes harder to blame others.
Yeah,
It's
part of the process.
You got to take responsibility. And if you don't like what you've created thus far,
yeah,
okay, here's where we get to work, or I'd like to say get to play on creating something different, something better, something more fun, right?
I would love to mention as well that in relationship to, this word chaos, but like also play, in the times where I've been unraveling the most, you have demonstrated the play. And you have honestly, it's interesting because when you are letting go of a part of you, a behavior or a mindset, or you're catching yourself in these moments of like, oh, this is the behavior, or
we hang on to them so strongly, don't we?
Humor and like being funny is seriously the antidote. It's challenged me. It's actually triggered me sometimes because I'm like, ooh, not that you're laughing at me, but I've seen this in action where you've literally shifted the energy where I'm like, it's almost like being playful and not trying to be reactive, but lighthearted about that evolutionary process, because sometimes we hold so tightly to these behaviors because of pain and fear, and we, wondering, well, who am I without this?
There's times when I get really focused and mathematical and businesslike too, and you remind me to play and bring me back to inner child. I like that we bring that balance for each other when we sense the other needs it. But yeah, it's a pattern interrupt, is what it is. It breaks you out of a cycle. And like you said, shifts energy. It really is all energy. It comes down to energy. If you struggle your way through life, you're going to invite more things that feel like a struggle. Because the way energy and frequency work is like attracts like, right? So what you radiate will show up more in your life. The universe is a divine mirror, just like we are divine mirrors for each other.
Yep.
There's a esoteric story about this man named Indra. Indra's jewels. You might have heard of this. It comes from Vedic mythology. And basically the queen invited Indra, who is a wise man, wizard, explain to me, but in terms we can understand, like none of your mumbo jumbo. Explain to us like the nature of the universe. You have till morning. We'll come back then and have an explanation for us. And he set up a bunch of mirrors. And when the queen and her audience assembled, he said, watch this. He put a candle in the middle of the room and lit it up in the middle of a dark room. And suddenly there were 1,000 lights because they all reflected through all the mirrors. And he's like, see? And then he took them outside and pointed out the dewdrops and again lit a candle. And everybody saw a tiny little flame and all the little dewdrops as far as they could see. And that's what he was trying to show us, that everything you're experiencing is a reflection of your internal landscape, reflecting outwards and reflecting back to you.
Yeah.
That's what the universe is. Physics has taught us. Here again, the overlap between mysticism and science. Physics has taught us that matter is nothing more than condensed energy. It all starts as energy. And our thoughts are what give it containment, give it form. That's when a wave ceases to be a wave and collapses into a particle. Possibility becomes a thing when it meets consciousness. Like physics has literally proved this now.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a hand in shaping our reality. It's not just a metaphor.
Yeah.
It's when energy solidifies into matter, is
Mm.
when it meets thought and intention. And this is really, now we're kind of steering a little bit into my personal journey. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so curious.
how I came to be here. And it literally starts with a little boy and the first movie he ever saw in a movie theater, his first time in a movie theater, and that was Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And the lights dimmed, the ship flew over my head, my jaw dropped, and my head was suddenly full of possibilities that weren't there before. And the thing I took away from Star Wars wasn't even the spaceships or the space battles or anything like that. It was the idea of the Jedi and this mystical tradition that they followed. And how they were able to do seemingly miraculous things. I mean, you know, the religion that you come from, the book that you grew up reading is about a man who did miraculous things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And here was a movie about a boy learning that he's capable of doing miraculous things. And he did it by learning about this thing called the Force. And the way his master Yoda taught him, he said the Force is everywhere. It's inside of us. It's outside of us. It's what binds all living things together.
Mm-hmm.
And when you spend time meditating upon it, becoming aware and familiar of it, right? You start being able to dance with it and do things with it as your awareness of it grows. This was the key concept. I became obsessed with that idea. It didn't feel like fiction. I had to find the real life Jedi. I had to learn about the Force. And that led me to studying martial arts. You know, that led me to meditation. That led me to yoga, the Vedic sciences, right? Everywhere from Japan to India, like Egypt, all of these ancient traditions had something to teach us. And the more I delved into each one, the more I realized what they were teaching sounded a lot like what Yoda taught. You might call it energy, you might call it chi, you might call it prana, but it was this force that I had been looking for. And just like you say, we have a hand in shaping our reality. If reality is condensed energy and you want to learn how to shape reality, it makes sense that you study energy. And meditation, martial arts led me to meditation. Meditation led me to awareness of energy. That awareness of energy then led me to Tantra. Because Tantra is like, now that you're aware of energy, what can you do with it? Right? This is the part of Star Wars where Luke Skywalker learned to see with his eyes closed, right? Or feel things around him. You know, eventually be able to lift rocks and move things around him. You know, I guess this has been my big realization at the end of it all. Energy flows where your attention goes. And that's why I talk about, like, are you feeling struggle? Are you feeling panic? Are you feeling anger most of your life? This is why the frustrations are showing up. If you can learn to shift yourself, all change starts from within, right? You will notice things outside you shifting. So that's really what my life experience taught me to be an expert in. How to see those blocks and limitations and how to make that shift. And then having done it on myself, and it's a continual process. It's not like I'm done. I'm constantly doing this to myself. I've gotten so good at it that I can instantly see a person's blocks and help them shift that. Whether we use psychological methods, right? Whether we use ancient traditions, shamanistic methods, whether we use meditation, whether we use Tantra, different tools work better for different people. But it's about figuring out those blocks and then creating those shifts. So that's been my journey and some of the tools that really helped me along it.
Yeah, I'm really curious if you could elaborate a little bit and share a personal experience that was rather difficult or hard, and how did it change you for the better in regards to witnessing something you were feeling or experiencing within and being the alchemist? Can you think of one that really shifted you and how you did so?
It's really hard to think of one because literally every experience has been that. Every failure has been that. Something happens and you feel whatever, awful, angry, unfairly treated. It's been this realization that I can sit in it or I can transmute it. Energy's energy. Somebody flings energy at you don't like. Energy is still energy. You can get smacked upside the head by it if you so choose. This is the art of the alchemist. I mean, you said in my human design, you literally saw the archetype of the alchemist. It's about transmuting it. You know, one thing that was tough, and it's not that I've had a particularly hard life. Everybody's had a hard life in their own way. And everybody's had a life where you were blessed with gifts you might have not even realized at the time. We all have a mix. I don't know that my life is necessarily harder or easier than anybody else's. But you know, one thread that comes to mind is kind of always being cast in this role of an outsider a little bit, because my family didn't fit in Russia. You know, our eyes are a little too brown, our hair is a little too dark. You know, it's a country of blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. We left there. We found asylum in the U.S. And now we weren't ethnic enough for the ethnicities here. You know, and plus we came over during the Cold War when people from Russia weren't very popular. So we didn't fit in with our own kind. We didn't fit in with the culture we were assimilating with. And you can let that be a limitation, right? Or you can transmute that energy. Okay, well, maybe I don't quite fit in, and I can try to change myself to fit in better. This was really my big lesson. Or I can lean into that which makes me different. And sooner or later, people are going to be, oh, that's unusual. That's kind of different. How do I get me some of that? You see? So if anything, my life experiences have taught me to lean into myself, lean into that which makes me unique. And that's, you know, that's why I encourage everybody listening, take the time to learn. You know, there's lots of tools available from meditation to astrology. Take the time to learn about yourself and what makes you unique. You know, and if you need help with this, it's often much faster, much easier if you have a guide, if you have a coach, if you have somebody who's done it before. I know, you know, you do astrology readings for people and you go really deep. You can give them insights.
Yeah.
Something I've seen you do lately too is guide people through singing and dance, connecting with their body. You know, I'm really good with guided meditations, hypnotherapy, traditional coaching, and forms of therapy. So we have available tools. You know, you guys can always reach out to us. Our website, our Instagram links are in the description of this episode. So if you need guidance or help along the way, you know, that's what we're really here for.
Yeah, very much so. I consider us initiators and those who help people move through sacred transitions. And yeah, I believe in our life experience and what we've gone through. And like you were just mentioning, I think it's just really powerful. I've heard that story before and just what it meant to you and like the vulnerability of coming to America from another country and just how that deeply impacted you, and just the ability that you, and even just the perspective now to be like, yeah, I transmuted that, and it's helped me become the man I am today. And I think that's why you care about the person that maybe is going through something similar, right? It helps bring a humanity, like human to human moment of connection. So yeah, I hear you.
Well, the same for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having gone through that, really learning to stand on your own 2 feet and to stand up to authority when it's misused.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one thing like accepting authority when somebody's trying to keep you safe. You know, it's something else when authority tries to really suppress you and limit you and continue, like, because I've seen you champion people that are going through that too. It's like literally like what we've gone through
Mm-hmm.
is what's prepared us for the work we do today.
Mm-hmm.
Just like everything you've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
see, everything that right now might feel like pain, like trauma, like a limitation holding you back, that is the alchemy. That is the personal transformation, is you transmute that. And what used to hold you back now becomes your asset, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I never thought I would be in the space of like psychosomatic spiritual coaching. I never thought this would be a path of mine. I never thought this would be something I'd hold space for people in. But it makes a lot of sense now.
Is it something you do? Or is it something you are, is the thing?
Definitely just how I see myself is like the crone. I know I'm only 32, but I feel like an old soul. I've been around the block in this earth plane before. So how I see it is like,
I see you oscillate through all 3.
yeah, well,
Maiden, mother, crone, sure.
Yeah. It's just, I'm available. I mean, I admit with my human design 2-4, I like my alone time, my hermit mode. But when the right opportunities come along and I am able to serve, and if it resonates with my gifts that I have, because I do have a lot of gifts. I'm a dancer. I'm an astrologer. I do human design. I'm a choreographer, a podcaster. Like there's so many things I could do, but in knowing myself, I'm just available. I'm available to what lights me up. That's what excites me.
You just are.
Yeah.
You're busy being Kendall.
Mm-hmm. Like right now, I'm like so excited. Like speaking of like my curious side, and what lights me up right now, sincerely, has nothing to do with anything we've said, except that it relates to dance. Like I'm obsessed right now. Like what's lighting my soul on fire is Irish dancing. Like absolutely obsessed with just understanding cultures, understanding history beyond my own. And I've been a tap dancer my whole life, but like I've been so riveted, captivated just by like the energy behind the Riverdance soundtrack, but what it does in me in my solo time feels like the most soulful spiritual experience ever. And talk about manifestation and you being a manifesting generator. Like I have never felt more attuned to a possibility of a dream and of perhaps like dancing in the show or just learning this craft, because I grown up doing tap dancing, more of a hoofer style. But yeah, it is just understanding yourself in knowing myself. Like, for example, I'm a generator. I get to follow what lights me up. And that's what, from that energy, I then take action. And from there, like, for example, I keep envisioning myself around a bunch of Irish people and they are, Irish dancers, and just being in that fire. And like me, like I even envisioned myself like breaking down in tears, because like that's how much the sound, the music moves me, right? And I
Moves
know
you.
this is part of manifestation, but yeah.
Well, what you're speaking into is passion.
Oof.
You're lit up. And when you're lit up, you're radiating positive energy.
Yeah.
This is how change happens. This is how the world begins to change. What speaks to you, I believe, in that music is the spirit of rebellion, the spirit of nonconformity.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you hear it in how strong, right, the beat of the music is, and then you have those highs dancing above it. You know, literally this particular style of dance and music is born of rebellion, because this was during a time when the church forbid all dancing, all partying, all revelry. So the form of dancing evolved in such a way that it's all from the waist down. So if somebody happens to walk by your house and see you through the window, it doesn't look like you're breaking the rules. But from the waist down, you're having the time of your life.
Yeah.
And that's literally, it's like, no, you can't. It literally is born of that energy of like, you can't suppress the human spirit.
Right. And it's interesting because I have literally just been following this thread, and I feel vulnerable even sharing, but I've been just following this thread of this music for a while, but it like has been just up in front of my face recently. And I've been studying online, just looking at Michael Flatley, the creator of the show. And I literally have been listening to his story of like how he created it. And literally I discovered so much about him, and not only just how he created it, but his heartbeat around challenging the art form of Irish dancing. He was the challenger, initiator, and I'm pretty sure I looked at his chart the other day, like his Saturn is in Aquarius, and it's just interesting because I'm an ascendant in Aquarius. Like that's what my soul is evolving into, and it's wild because he challenged even the status quo of what dancing was like. And that's why when you see him in Riverdance or online at least, you'll see him with in his solo pieces, his arms are not down. He like put his arms up and he's just like and it inspires me. It really inspires me. And that's where I'm like, even in the art form itself, there's like a progressive companies that are even going beyond what is even Riverdance. So it's fascinating. I'm just like, I yearn for more fire in my life. I'm always looking. I feel like the universe is just like mirroring back to me the intensity of that. But yeah. So.
Well, it's really interesting also how art can influence, reality. I mean, it's all reality. It's all real. But like how art starts out imitating life, but then art actually influences life, influences evolution. After college, I moved out to Los Angeles, and you can't live in Los Angeles and not be in the proximity of Hollywood because it's like everywhere. The industry permeates everything. So a lot of my early clients were actors. And I used what I knew about psychology to help them get into their role and prepare for their role. And, coming from a martial arts background, in college I studied a lot of self-improvement, NLP, things like that. That's what led me to psychology. I started realizing that a professional actor, here's the thing, a professional actor, the really good performances that move you are because they're not acting. They are experiencing an emotion so strongly that they're able to take you along for a ride. But they're not acting. When an actor's pretending, that's when it feels like a B movie and it feels cheesy. The good ones aren't pretending, they're not actually acting. So it was in working with these actors and my understanding of psychology that I realized, whoa, wait a minute. We all, in a way, prepare ourselves for a role. We all create an avatar of ourselves. See, the first part of the work is getting to know yourself. but then you create an avatar. And the issue is we haven't been doing this deliberately or consciously till now.
Mm-hmm.
But you develop the avatar. You get to decide how you show up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like a good actor does, you prepare for yourself for the role.
Mm-hmm.
So same kind of thing. I didn't realize that what is applied in an art form could actually be translated into life. But what I learned working with some of these Hollywood actors, I've been able to apply to business leaders now, political leaders, and even NFL and an Olympic athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Like they say, visualize stuff before you actually do it. Guys, this stuff works. When I put in an Olympic athlete into an actor's role and had him imagine
Mm-hmm.
coming in first, he beat his own personal record
Mm-hmm.
up to that point in that race, like by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So this stuff really does work. It translates into almost every aspect of your life. Once you learn about how the universe works, and once you learn about yourself, I mean, you're literally learning how to hack reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to test this out because I've been meditating with the soundtrack. I literally am like running at the gym, listening to it. Like it is so embodied. It almost feels, it does feel real. And that's what it excites me and it scares me, overwhelms me. Like I was listening to Michael Flatley talk about like when he was doing the show actively, he would get so hot he'd have to dump his head into ice because he was just radiating so much light. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Because they do encores at the end and it's like over and over. Like, oh my gosh, I need to get into more shape. Like just endurance. It's definitely my Aquarius because it's the resilience. It's not even just the rebel. It's the resiliency I feel. Like every time I listen to like the Lord of the Dance with the Taps, like when the whole line, the progression of tappers comes out, I'm like, oh, something lights up. Anyways.
Well, I mean, that is a very strenuous form of dance. They are athletes at their peak.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. It's an initiation in pursuing that.
In many ways, I mean, for lack of a better word, that is my fetish. Seeing people at their peak.
Okay.
And if they're not there yet, well, helping them reach it.
Yeah.
I mean, Lord of the Dance is like the best of the best at their peak.
Yeah.
And that's really it. And why do more people not function at that level? Because at some point along the way, we've accepted other people's limitations as our own. When we talk about limiting beliefs, when we talk about blocks, sure, something happened to form them. But usually they didn't start out as our own. They came from outside of ourselves and we adopted them as our own.
Yeah. And it's honestly, a lot of the time it's unconscious. It's actually inherited in the energy body. It's looking at human design. And I also look at, like, for example, Chiron. It's like, know that when you know yourself, you're able to understand what you're working with. Like, for example, my Chiron's in Leo. And Leo, in her fullest light, is being seen, being recognized. It's the artist being in front of the crowds. And so it makes a lot of sense.
Kind of been calling to you as of late.
Yeah. Yeah. To just not even... Yeah, just to own in a deeper way and pursue. And the universe has been giving me green lights and signs and emotional waves. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to lean into this. Why not? That's powerful. But yeah, synchronicity is a huge aspect, I feel, of my world. Is even today, there was a synchronicity that happened. And I was just like, wow. It's cool. It's wonderful to be communing with the divine and just trusting the process and just believing it's possible, because the biggest thing I've been telling myself and affirming in myself, you're never too late. And yeah, you're never too late.
Well, Carl Jung coined the phrase synchronicity as something distinctly separate and different from coincidence.
Mm.
It's when something is so synced up that it cannot possibly be coincidence.
Yeah.
And those are the little signs, the little signals that there is a pattern at play.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you haven't thought it's a pattern because it's maybe so complex that you haven't seen it in its wholeness yet.
The thing I wanted to mention in response of what you were sharing, what it is in like peak performance or like seeing someone the highest version of themselves, I truly believe it's because that's all of our birthright.
Absolutely.
And that's a sacred call and something I very much respect that you value that, right?
Well, when you see someone stripped of all of their limitations, whether imposed by others or self, you get to see them in their purest self. You see the gold shining. You see the aura at its fullest.
Right.
And that's a very beautiful sight to behold.
Right. Yeah.
I am in awe of creation every time I meet a piece of that creation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have been honored to witness people in their peak and support them and witness you in you being who you are and helping people get to that moment and moments in their life. And yeah, it's powerful. And even for me, like,
well, likewise, and right back at you.
right. It's being able to face, I'm facing my own limitations right now and also dialoguing with the divine. And I'm like, okay. Like I see these breadcrumbs and it's confronting, but it's beautiful. And I love that.
The beginning led us to here, and here leads us right back to the beginning again. You know, we've kind of been touching on the intersections of mysticism and science as we've been exploring the art of self-transformation, personal transformation. You know, this is kind of the polarization. We've spoken in the past how, you know, there used to be temples that worshiped the feminine, and along came the masculine religions. As things became more polarized and as one energy dominated the other, I believe this is where astrology eventually morphed into astronomy. This is where alchemy eventually morphed into chemistry. And now as we learn more and more about astronomy and chemistry and physics, we find more and more proof of what the mystics have always said about astrology and alchemy. So it's like, what is new now is what used to be old, right? And what is old is new again. It almost feels like we're at a point where we as a society in the world have all come full circle.
Yeah.
You know, and you've spoken about it before from the perspective of astrology, like we're at the cusp of some really profound transformations as individuals and as a society. You know, if you've been feeling unsettled, it's what you were talking about, like this unraveling so restructuring can happen.
Yeah.
Like we're in it.
Yeah. And that's why I believe in the tools that we've been talking about. They're very much divine anchors in this time. And I know fellow astrologers that I follow and just people that I follow and look up to, like the tools that I'm passionate about are very earth-based, and they're not even just earth-based, but they provide understanding and context for what's going on outside, because it helps me realize no matter what, the external is going to be happening. Yet in this time, getting to know yourself, preparing, building, creating, any of that, connecting to your spirituality, connecting to your soul, is that which you can control. And that's the thing. That's what I would mention to anyone here. What I'm about is, and I feel like what we're about is really focus on what you can control. Really focus on, and this is, I'm in part hearing from like Michael Flatley, who I look up to so much, is like, discipline yourself. Truly find the structure, find the time to pour into yourself, to get to know yourself. And if you, for example, struggle with that, we're happy to help you and support you in that journey and guide you through a transformative experience, whether that be a one-off session or multiple sessions. But that's the power, I believe, of what we offer is helping people create rituals to support them, to support them in their life, and magical rituals around the moon, and looking at your specific, when we look at your specific, for example, map, your soul, like when I look at it, I can, with you, we see things and we're like, oh, we're able to reflect. And then at the end of the day, it's like you realize you're beautiful the way you are, and you're transforming and you're growing and you're facing your shadows, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful journey. You're here to grow. And so, yeah.
Yeah, if we can support you in any way, this is why we created Tantric Awakening, you guys.
Yeah.
You can find Kendall on Instagram at the Tantric Mystic _. And you can find me at Andre Night Awakening. You can also visit us at www.tantricawakening.net. I encourage you to sign up for our mailing list because we've got a lot of exciting things coming, you guys. We're working on courses. We are planning the first of our in-person retreats offline. We have a lot of good stuff, you guys. We'll also get on the list. Get on the list and we'll keep you informed. That's really the best way. And also, I would like to extend an invitation to, we'll put the link in the description below the episode, but let us know about yourself. We'll put up a little form. Let us know about yourself, what you're going through right now. What have been some of your past successes? What are your current interests? What are your current struggles? Because we want to focus in the future on things that are the most helpful, the most beneficial to you. So let us know a little bit about yourself. And I believe for folks that take the time to do that, you're going to, as a thank you, offer them a little something, right?
Yeah, just if you fill out the form at the end, there's going to be a gift for you, and it likely will be a meditation for you to utilize to connect deeper to the inner alchemist or the inner mystic, and really just ground into your body with some breath work. And yeah, we are excited to hear from you, and the intention around that is really to get to know you on a deeper level so that we can answer your questions and be more attuned to what you're personally moving through. So the more we hear from you, the more we're able to, like you were mentioning, with courses and retreats in the future, are able to just understand what kind of experiences and various experiences you're looking for. And we know so many of you are tuning in from all over the world, from America to the Netherlands and beyond. And so we want to just be able to, just have a little bit more of a tangible understanding of the beautiful being that you are. And whether you're single, in a relationship, dating, yearning to find your soulmate, like, we're so excited to hear from you in this invitation. So we really thank you. And if you haven't already as well, we encourage you to subscribe on our YouTube channel and, push the notification bell to receive notifications about our future episodes as well. We'd really love and appreciate if you're, listening on Spotify, if you feel called to as well, just to give us a review as well on Apple Podcasts. All your reviews really help the algorithm to get this message out there to people. So if you're a mystic, if you're an alchemist, you resonate with esoteric, magical, witchcraft, all these beautiful things, feel free to just lean in and share this podcast with your friends, with your soul tribe, because our intention as well is that in putting this show out there, that we also get to meet more of our soul tribe in around the world, because
yes.
That's the intention, is that when we do these retreats and when we gather around offerings we do in the future, that, we just get to deepen our relationship with you and go into those realms.
We're putting the call out there.
Yeah.
Where are the leaders? Where are the change makers? Where are the heretics? Where are the mystics of tomorrow? Like, we're putting the call out. We want to meet you.
Yeah.
We got things to do.
Yeah. We're passionate about it. And so, thank you so much to everyone. Thank you, beloved. This has been amazing. And
this one was fun.
Yeah, this has been a really fun episode, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care.